Hey everyone, Noir here. Let's get into today's Reddit story.
I never thought I would be telling this story, but here it goes. My name is Nathan, I am 26 years old, and 3 years ago my entire life was turned upside down because my older sister, Olivia, falsely accused me of stealing her wedding ring. The truth is, the ring never even left the house. It was finally discovered 3 years later, but by then it was far too late to repair what had been destroyed or bring our family back together. I grew up in a small town in Ohio with my parents, Michael and Sarah, and my older sister, Olivia. We lived in a modest 2-story house that my parents had bought shortly after they got married. It was not a fancy place, but it was our home. My father worked as a high school mathematics teacher, and my mother was a nurse at the local hospital. We were never wealthy, but my parents always made sure we had everything we needed while growing up. When we were kids, Olivia and I were very close. We spent hours in the backyard climbing the old oak tree and making up all kinds of games together. Olivia was always the one creating the rules and coming up with the stories, while I was perfectly happy to follow along and have fun. As the years passed, though, things slowly started to change. Olivia always pushed herself to be the best. She graduated at the top of her class, became captain of the debate team, and seemed to succeed at everything she tried. I was completely different. I did all right in school, but I never had the same drive that she did. As we entered our teenage years, those differences slowly created distance between us. By the time Olivia left for college, we had grown apart. She earned a scholarship to a well-known university, while I stayed close to home and attended the local community college. I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, so I signed up for different classes, hoping something would eventually feel right. After graduating, Olivia moved to the city and started working for a large marketing agency. Whenever she came home for holidays or weekend visits, she always had exciting stories about her successful career and busy life. I could not help comparing myself to her. Meanwhile, I was still living with my parents, working part-time at the local grocery store and trying to decide what my future looked like. Even with all those differences, I believed Olivia and I were on good terms. We were not as close as we had been when we were younger, but I assumed that was just part of growing up. I had no idea how quickly everything was about to fall apart. 3 years ago, Olivia and her boyfriend, Daniel, got engaged after dating for 2 years. Everyone in the family was thrilled. Daniel was a lawyer from a wealthy family, and my parents absolutely admired him. He proposed with a beautiful diamond ring that had been passed down through his family for generations. Olivia was overjoyed and proudly showed the ring to everyone she met. My parents hosted a big engagement celebration at our house. It felt like they had invited the whole town. Daniel and Olivia also brought several friends from the city. I remember feeling out of place around them, so I spent most of the party talking with my old high school friends who still lived nearby. About a month after the engagement, everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I had the day off from work. I was upstairs in my room playing video games while enjoying the quiet. Olivia was staying with us for the week, so she and my mother could start planning the wedding together. Later that afternoon, I heard Olivia and Mom come home from shopping. They were laughing and talking downstairs, so I stayed in my room and kept playing. About an hour later, I suddenly heard Olivia scream. I rushed downstairs to see what had happened. The moment I got there, she accused me of stealing her engagement ring. She said she had taken it off while washing dishes and left it on the kitchen counter. When she came back to get it, it had disappeared. I was completely shocked and immediately told her I had not taken it. She refused to believe me. She kept insisting I was the only other person in the house, so it had to be me. Then she said I had always been jealous of her success and probably wanted to sell the ring so I could finally move out and do something with my life. Our parents came home in the middle of the argument, and Olivia quickly explained what had happened. To my disbelief, they believed her without asking any questions. My mother started crying, asking how I could betray my own sister. My father simply stared at me with disappointment written all over his face. They searched my room from top to bottom, turning everything upside down. They never found the ring, but they did find the money I had been saving from my job at the grocery store. It was only a few $100s, but Olivia immediately claimed it was proof that I had sold the ring. I tried to explain that I had been saving that money for months because I wanted to take more classes at the community college, but nobody listened to me. The next few days were a nightmare. My parents and Olivia kept demanding that I confess and tell them where the ring was. They even threatened to call the police if I refused to admit what I had supposedly done. I was scared and completely alone. No one in my family believed me anymore. Inside my own home, I was treated like a criminal. I reached out to several of my friends, but most of my friends had moved away after graduating from high school. The few who were still living in town wanted nothing to do with family drama, so nobody was willing to get involved. I had never felt so alone. After a full week of constant accusations, pressure, and threats, my parents made the decision that changed my life forever. They told me I had to leave. According to them, they could no longer trust me, and they believed I had brought shame on the family. They gave me exactly 2 days to pack my things and get out. I was completely devastated. I had nowhere to live and no real plan for what came next. My best friend from high school, Tyler, who was 26 and had recently come back home after serving in the Army, offered to let me sleep on his couch for a while. I was grateful, but I knew it could only be temporary. His apartment was tiny, and he was still trying to rebuild his own life. I packed everything I owned into an old duffel bag and a backpack. I took my clothes, a few books, my laptop, and a handful of keepsakes that reminded me of better days. As I walked out the front door, I looked up and saw Olivia standing at the window of her old bedroom. For just a second, I thought I saw uncertainty in her face, almost like she was starting to question everything. Then she looked away. Leaving the only home I had ever known was the hardest thing I had ever done. I felt betrayed, abandoned, and completely rejected by the people who were supposed to love me no matter what. The worst part was knowing I had done absolutely nothing wrong. For the next 2 months, I bounced between Tyler's couch and cheap motel rooms whenever I could afford one. I accepted every job I could find just to survive. I washed dishes in restaurants, walked dogs, and even spent a few weeks working construction. None of it was easy, but I was determined to stand on my own feet and prove that I could make it without my family. Eventually, I found steady work at a warehouse on the edge of town. The work was exhausting, and the shifts were long, but the paycheck came every week. It was not an amazing salary, but it was enough for me to rent a small room in a shared house with a few other warehouse workers. Little by little, I started putting my life back together. Even so, the pain of what had happened never really disappeared. Almost every night I would lie awake replaying everything in my head, trying to understand how it had all gone so terribly wrong. I kept asking myself the same questions. How could my own family turn against me so fast? How could Olivia, the person who had known me my entire life, honestly believe I was capable of stealing from her? I completely cut off contact with my family. During the first few months, they tried reaching out several times. My mom left emotional voice messages asking me to come home so we could fix everything. My dad sent a few text messages saying we needed to talk. Olivia even came to the warehouse one day hoping to see me, but I refused to meet with her. After everything they had done, I could not bring myself to face any of them. As far as I was concerned, they were no longer my family. That was my life for the next 3 years. I made new friends through work and at the house where I lived. After our shifts, we would grab a few beers, watch sports, and just relax together. It was not the future I had once imagined, but it was a life I had built entirely on my own. I worked hard and eventually earned a promotion to shift supervisor at the warehouse. At the same time, I started taking online business management classes because I was finally beginning to figure out what I wanted to do with my future. Even though my life was moving forward, part of me never healed. I was still hurt, still angry, and still carrying everything that had happened. I missed the family I thought I had, but I could never forgive them for refusing to believe me. The holidays were always the hardest. Whenever I saw families shopping together or heard Christmas music playing in stores, I was reminded of everything I had lost. Then, last week, something happened that I never expected. I received an email from my father. The subject line simply read, "We need to talk." The message itself was short. He said they needed to see me as soon as possible because it concerned the missing ring. My first instinct was to ignore it, just like I had ignored every other attempt they had made to contact me over the past 3 years. But something stopped me. Maybe I was curious. Maybe, deep down, I still wanted some kind of answer. After going back and forth with myself for hours, I finally called my father. What he told me left me speechless. They had found the ring. It turned out Olivia had accidentally knocked it into the garbage disposal while she was washing dishes that day. Nobody realized it had fallen in there. A few days ago, the disposal started making strange noises, so they called a plumber. That was when the missing engagement ring was discovered. My father said Olivia completely broke down after realizing what had really happened. She finally understood that I had been telling the truth from the very beginning. He told me they all felt terrible about the way they had treated me and wanted the chance to make things right. After I hung up the phone, I just sat there trying to process everything. Part of me felt relieved because I had finally been proven innocent. For 3 years I had told the truth, and now everyone knew it. But another part of me was furious. It had taken them 3 years to learn what they could have discovered if they had simply believed me. 3 years of being treated like a thief. 3 years away from my family. 3 years of struggling completely alone for something I had never done. Now I find myself standing at a crossroads. My family wants me to come home. They say they want to fix what they destroyed. Olivia has been calling and sending message after message, begging me to forgive her. The problem is, I honestly do not know if I can. They threw me out of the house without giving me the benefit of the doubt. They chose to believe the worst about me. They abandoned me and left me to survive completely on my own for 3 long years. Part of me wanted to tell every one of them to go to hell and leave them to live with the guilt of what they had done to me. But another part of me missed the life I used to have. I kept wondering if there was any chance of rebuilding what we had lost. I honestly did not know what the right choice was. Should I give them a chance to make things right? Or should I keep moving forward with the life I had built without them? I felt completely torn, and I wanted to hear what other people thought about the situation. Update 1. It has been a week since I made my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment and offer advice. Reading your responses helped me sort through my emotions and finally decide what I needed to do. After thinking about it for a long time, I agreed to meet with my family. I realized I owed it to myself to face them, hear what they had to say, and hopefully get some kind of closure. That did not mean I was ready to forgive them or rebuild our relationship, but I felt like I needed answers. We agreed to meet at a small coffee shop in the next town over. I picked the location because it was far enough away that we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew, but still close enough that it would not be difficult for everyone to get there. The day of the meeting, I was incredibly nervous. 3 years had passed since I had last seen any of them, and I had no idea how it was going to go. I arrived a little early and chose a quiet table in the corner where we could talk without too many people overhearing us. The moment they walked through the door, it felt like someone punched me in the stomach. Seeing my family again after 3 years brought back a flood of emotions I was not prepared for. My mom started crying as soon as she saw me. She looked older than I remembered. There was more gray in her hair, and the lines around her eyes were much deeper. My dad looked exhausted. His shoulders sagged, and he carried himself like a man weighed down by years of regret. Olivia would not even look me in the eye at first. She seemed smaller somehow, quieter and far less confident than the sister I remembered. We all sat down, and for a few awkward moments nobody knew how to begin. Then everyone started talking at once. Apologies came from every direction. My parents admitted they had failed me. They said they should have trusted their own son instead of assuming I was guilty. They confessed that forcing me out of the house was the biggest mistake they had ever made, and they told me they had regretted that decision every single day. They said pride and shame had stopped them from reaching out the way they should have. My father, who had never been a man who talked much, surprised me that day. He spoke for what felt like hours. He told me he had replayed those events over and over in his mind, trying to understand how he could have been so wrong. He said he had always believed he was a fair and reasonable person, but when it mattered most, he allowed his emotions to cloud his judgment. My mother could barely get through her apology without crying. She told me she had never touched my bedroom after I left. Everything was exactly where I had left it because she kept hoping I would come back one day. She admitted there were nights when she woke up convinced she had heard me coming through the front door, only to remember that I was gone. Then it was Olivia's turn. She completely broke down. She said she would never forgive herself for accusing me of something I had never done and for destroying the relationship we once had. She admitted that even though she was older than me, she had always admired me when we were kids. Somewhere along the way, she became so caught up in her own life and her own problems that she lost sight of what really mattered. As I listened to all of them, memories from our childhood kept coming back. I remembered the time Olivia stood up for me when I was being bullied in middle school. I remembered the jokes we shared, the secrets we kept, and all the moments when we had been there for each other during difficult times. Those memories made everything hurt even more. They reminded me that before all of this happened, we had been a real family. I listened carefully to everything they said, but I still could not bring myself to forgive them. The pain, anger, and betrayal I had carried for the past 3 years were still too fresh. I told them I needed more time before I could make any decisions. To their credit, they accepted that answer. Nobody argued with me or tried to pressure me into forgiving them on the spot. Before we left, my mom asked if she could hug me. I quietly stepped back. I just was not ready for that. The look on her face nearly made me change my mind, but I stood my ground. I knew I needed to protect myself emotionally before anything else. After the meeting, I went back to my apartment and spent hours thinking about everything that had happened. I kept asking myself difficult questions. Did I really want my old life back? Could I ever trust them again? Was it even possible to rebuild a relationship after something like this? The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had changed during those 3 years. I had learned to depend on myself. I had become stronger, more independent, and more confident than I had ever been before. I was not the same young man they had thrown out of the house. I thought about my job at the warehouse, the online business management classes I had been taking, and the friends who had become like family to me. I had worked incredibly hard to build this life on my own, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. The idea of simply walking away from all of that and pretending nothing had happened did not feel right. At the same time, I could not ignore what I had felt when I saw my family again. Despite everything, I still loved them. I still missed them. That left me wondering if there was a way to have a relationship with them without giving up the independent life I had built. After thinking it over for several more days, I finally made my decision. I called my parents and thanked them for apologizing. Then I explained that I was still not ready for a full reconciliation. I told them I needed more time and more space before I could even think about rebuilding our relationship. I also made it clear that there would have to be boundaries. I explained that, for now, I was willing to keep only limited contact with them, but I made it clear that I was not moving back home, and I was not going to act like none of this had ever happened. I told them that if we were going to have any kind of relationship again, it had to happen on my terms. They were disappointed, but they said they understood. They promised to respect my boundaries and give me as much time as I needed. My mom asked if she could call me once a week just to check in. After thinking about it, I agreed. It felt like a reasonable way to slowly rebuild at least a little trust between us. When it came to Olivia, though, I made a different decision. I told her I needed to keep my distance. What she did hurt me more than anything my parents had done, and I simply was not ready to forgive her. I explained that I needed more time before I could even think about having a real relationship with her again. She was clearly upset, but she said she understood and promised she would wait until I was ready. It has been an emotional week filled with a lot of ups and downs. There have been moments when I questioned whether I was making the right choice. Sometimes I wondered if I was being too hard on them or throwing away my chance to have my family back. Then I remember how quickly they all believed I was guilty and how easily they pushed me out of their lives. That reminds me why I need to take this one step at a time. A lot of people suggested therapy in the comments, so I started looking into it. After giving it some thought, I realized it would probably help to have someone objective to talk to while I work through everything that has happened. I have never been to therapy before, so I am a little nervous about it, but I also think it could be one of the best decisions I make. For now, I am keeping my attention on work and school. I have a major project coming up at the warehouse, and I do not want all of this family drama to distract me from the goals I have been working toward. I have also been thinking about renting a better apartment. I have managed to save some money, and I finally feel like I might be ready to live on my own instead of sharing a place with roommates. Once again, I want to thank everyone who reached out with advice and kind words. It honestly means a lot to know that complete strangers cared enough to listen and offer support. If anything important happens, I will come back and share another update. Update 2. It has been almost a month since my last update, and a few things have changed. I have continued sticking to the boundaries I set with my family. We have exchanged a few phone calls and text messages, but nothing too emotional. It has been a little awkward at times, but not nearly as difficult as I expected. My parents have mostly respected everything I asked for. They check in from time to time, but they never push me to give more than I am comfortable sharing. I can tell they are genuinely trying to earn back my trust, even though I know that process is going to take a long time. My mom has kept her promise to call once every week. Those conversations were pretty uncomfortable in the beginning. Sometimes we would sit in silence because neither of us knew what to say. Lately, though, they have started to feel a little more natural. Most of the time, we keep the conversation simple. We talk about her job at the hospital, the weather, or how my online classes are going. They are ordinary conversations, but they feel like a small step in the right direction. My dad has taken a different approach. Instead of calling often, he usually sends me short emails just to check in or share something he thinks I might find interesting. Last week, he forwarded me an article about a new business opening in our hometown. It was a small thing, but it reminded me of when I was younger, and he used to cut newspaper articles out for me because he thought I would enjoy reading them. Things with Olivia have been much more difficult. She has struggled with the distance I have put between us. She keeps sending long messages apologizing for everything she did and asking for another chance to make things right. Every time, I give her the same answer. I tell her that I still need more time. I know she is hurting, and part of me feels bad for her, but I am still trying to heal from everything myself. Right now, I cannot carry her emotions along with my own. The biggest change in my life is that I finally started therapy. I found a counselor who specializes in family trauma, and so far we have had several sessions together. It has not been easy. Talking about everything that happened has brought back a lot of painful memories, but I can already tell it is helping. My therapist has been helping me work through my anger, my trust issues, and the healthy boundaries I need to keep in place. During our last session, we talked about something I had never really considered before. The missing ring was not the only problem. For years before that happened, I had quietly lived with the feeling that I was always being compared to Olivia, and that I never measured up to everything she accomplished. The accusation was only the moment when all of those old feelings finally exploded. That conversation made me realize our family had deeper problems long before the ring ever disappeared, and if there is ever going to be real healing, those issues will have to be addressed too. One unexpected thing to come out of all this is how much closer I have become with my friends, especially Tyler. They have stood by me through every part of this. Tyler even offered to come with me if I ever decide to meet with my family again, just so I would not have to face it alone. That reminded me that family is not always the people you are related to. Sometimes, family is the group of people who stay beside you when everything else falls apart. Work has also been a huge help. Instead of sitting around thinking about the past, I have thrown myself into my job. A few weeks ago, I even received another promotion. I am now responsible for inventory management during my shift, which comes with a little more responsibility and a small raise. It feels good to have something positive happening in my life. As for where I live, I decided not to move just yet. My place is small and nothing special, but it is mine. It reminds me of everything I have accomplished on my own over the last 3 years. My parents even offered to help me find a nicer apartment, but I politely turned them down. This is something I need to do for myself. Lately, I have also started seriously looking into ways to continue my education. One of the state universities nearby, about an hour away, there is a state university that offers evening classes, and I have been seriously thinking about applying to its business program. It would be a big step for me, but for the first time in a long while, I actually feel ready to take it. Overall, I am just taking life one day at a time. Some days are easier than others. There are moments when I miss the way my family used to be and wish things had never fallen apart. Then, I remember how quickly they believed the worst about me and threw me out, and I realize that healing is not something I can rush. My therapist keeps reminding me that having mixed emotions is completely normal. She tells me not to pressure myself into forgiving anyone before I am truly ready. Right now, we are working on ways to handle future family gatherings and holidays because, honestly, those situations make me more anxious than I like to admit. At this point, my biggest priorities are continuing to heal and building a life that I can honestly be proud of, whether my family is part of it or not. It has not been an easy journey, but I finally feel hopeful about where my life is headed. One of the biggest lessons I have learned is that putting myself first is not selfish. Setting healthy boundaries does not make me a bad person. I also want to thank everyone once again for the kindness and encouragement you have shown me. Reading your comments and messages has helped me through some very difficult days. It means a lot to know that I am not the only person who has struggled with family problems like this. Update 3. It has now been 6 months since I shared my original story, and I figured it was finally time for one last update. A lot has happened over the past several months. The biggest piece of news is that I have accepted a job in another city, and I will be moving soon to start the next chapter of my life. This is a major step forward for my career, and I am genuinely excited about it. The position is with a large logistics company. The work is similar to what I have been doing at the warehouse, but on a much bigger scale. It is a management position, something I have been working toward for quite a while. The salary is much better than what I was earning before, and the job also comes with benefits, including health insurance and a retirement savings plan. Before I accepted the offer, I spent a long time talking it over with my therapist. We discussed how moving away might affect both my healing and my relationship with my family. In the end, we both felt it would probably be good for me. This move gives me the chance to build a life that belongs entirely to me, instead of constantly being tied to everything that happened with my family. Last week, I told my parents about my decision. They were surprised, and I could tell they were disappointed, but they said they understood. My mom cried a little because she had hoped we would have more time together before I moved away. My dad handled it more quietly, but I could still see how much it affected him. Both of them admitted they were worried about me living alone in a new city, but I reassured them that I would be fine. Olivia took the news the hardest. Not long after I told her, she showed up at my apartment without warning. She begged me not to leave. She said it felt like she was losing me all over again. It was one of the hardest conversations we have had since reconnecting, but I did not change my mind. I explained that this move was something I needed to do for myself. I also reminded her that our relationship was still fragile, and she could not expect her feelings to determine the choices I made about my future. Things between my family and me have improved over the past few months, but they are still far from perfect. We have shared several family dinners recently. Some of those evenings have been uncomfortable and awkward, but little by little we are learning how to be around each other again. Trust, however, is still the biggest obstacle. There are times when I catch myself wondering whether they truly mean everything they say or whether they are simply trying to ease their own guilt. Therapy has continued to make a huge difference. My therapist has helped me understand my emotions better while also reminding me that healthy boundaries are necessary. She has taught me that forgiveness does not mean forgetting what happened or pretending none of it mattered. Forgiveness is about letting go of the anger that keeps hurting you. That idea has stayed with me. I do not think I will ever forget what my family did to me. But I am trying to forgive them, not because they deserve it, because I deserve peace. Holding on to years of anger and bitterness became exhausting, and I finally realized I no longer wanted to carry that weight. As I get ready for this move, I keep thinking about everything that has happened over the past 3 years. Back then, I truly believed my life was over. I had lost my home, my family, and everyone I thought I could count on. Now, when I look back, I see something different. I see how much that experience changed me. It forced me to become stronger than I ever thought I could be. It taught me how to stand on my own, how to trust myself, and how to recognize my own value instead of measuring it against someone else's success. I honestly do not know what the future will look like for me and my family. We have agreed to stay in touch after I move. We plan to talk on the phone every week and visit each other during the holidays. Maybe that is enough for now. Maybe, with enough time and distance, we can build a new relationship instead of trying to recreate the one we lost. As for me, I am choosing to focus on what lies ahead. I am excited about my new job, my new city, and all the opportunities waiting for me there. I have already started looking at apartments online and learning more about the area where I will be living. Of course, I am nervous. Starting over always is. But more than anything, I am excited. No matter what happens with my family from this point forward, I know I will be all right. Over the last 3 years, I proved to myself that I can survive even when life falls apart. More importantly, I learned that the people who truly matter are the ones who believe in you, stand beside you, and support you when everything else goes wrong, whether you share the same last name or not.